BBC Radio Shropshire, it's 7 minutes after 11. Now, a little earlier you heard from a former Shropshire head teacher who was talking about children's relationships with the internet, primarily through the use of smartphones. And Tess Burgess has children in the last year of a Shrewsbury primary school. She's also regional leader for Smartphone Free Childhood, which is an organisation concerned about the impact that phones have on children, and joins me now. Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
So your children, how old?
They are both 10, twins, in year 6.
Right.
So they're at that key age where they clearly have been asking me for some time if they could have a smartphone. I became involved in Smartphone Free Shropshire in July, and I quickly, it was just a group that really, really interested me. I was really concerned about my 10-year-olds having a smartphone and all of the dangers that are associated with them having unfettered access to the internet. And I wanted to know really what the alternatives were. So I attended a meeting in July, which was held at a secondary school in Shrewsbury. And I found out there are actually loads of other parents who were in exactly the same position as me. One of the things that they talked about was what are the alternatives? And there's something called a feature phone. And it's what most people know as a brick phone, something that most likely your grandparents may have. Because I wanted my children to, if they were going to have more independence, I wanted to know where they were. I wanted to know if they're okay. But at the same time, I didn't want them to have a phone where they could look at adult material, which just exposes them to so many dangers that no parent wants their child to see. And once it's seen, they can't unsee it. So as a result, I did a bit of research and found that there are a number of these feature phones. And I said to my children, you can't have a smartphone, which, as you can imagine, initially didn't go down very well because it's what most of their friends were getting at the time. But then I said, you can have these feature phones at the beginning of the summer holidays, which they got. And slowly, a number of other parents thought that was a good idea too. And effectively, a number of their peers have now got these feature phones and they no longer feel weird because as soon as your friends have got the same thing as you, it's fine.
So these other children have had their smartphones taken away?
Well, they were children because they were in year 5. They were at the end of year 5 at the time. So they were children whose parents were in exactly the same position as me, and they were making that, is it time to get your child a smartphone? So I texted a few parents and said, this is what I'm thinking. What do you reckon? And they all said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
How did you come across the Smartphone Free Childhood group then?
So I saw online about the movement, which started back in February, literally between 2 mums, starting up a WhatsApp group, and it went viral overnight. There were over 1,000 members of the group. And then since then, it's just really escalated. There were 120,000 members of the organisation nationally. And there's a regional group in every county in the UK. And myself and somebody else, Tom Cox, are the regional leaders for Shropshire. So there's a huge web of parents who are all involved in this movement, and the starters of the grassroots movement, they're converting it into a charity, and they've left their jobs and they've worked full time on it. So
what do your children do on a daily basis then? Do they have access to the internet for schoolwork, homework, for anything?
Absolutely, because I'm not anti-tech. Obviously, the internet has its positives, and I'm not saying they can't use the internet when it's appropriate, because it is an important tool. It's more about when it is appropriate for them to look at it. And I think that one of the key points about this is that 98% of over 12-year-olds have a smartphone. And what I'm really keen to stress to parents is so many parents out there have already got their children a smartphone. And I'm not judging anybody who has made that decision. They made that decision with the information that they had before them at the time. We only started talking about this in February this year. So it's not making any judgments about anybody. It's about saying, right, this has happened, but what do we do now? And how can we move forward? And we want to bring everybody on board. And yeah, maybe you've got 3 kids, and maybe the eldest one's got a smartphone, and maybe your middle one is coming up to the point of you thinking about getting one. And you've got that opportunity now. You've got a choice.
How can you be across 3 children with smartphones, though? Do you know what I mean? Anyway.
Yeah.
And they're in their bedrooms and they're with their friends, and the phone goes everywhere, doesn't it?
Yeah. Do you mean... How can you see your kids when they're all on the phone?
How can you? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How do you know what they're looking at? You can't be with them 24 hours a day.
Exactly. And as much as parents say that they regulate their child's use of a phone, and obviously there are functions where you can restrict, children are really savvy. They know how to break those restrictions. And as much as we all want to, as a parent, restrict our child's use of a device, it's just not realistic. We all work, we're all preparing meals, we're all really busy. So the reality is, to be able to police it to the extent that you need to for it to be safe, it's just not feasible. So essentially, we're presenting another option. And this movement at the moment, just yesterday, has published parent packs. So that's about getting parents, because this is a collective action problem. We all need to work together, because nobody wants their child to be the only one without a smartphone. Yeah. It's about getting your child to feel normal and they're doing the normal thing. It's about changing cultural norms. And in doing so, we're asking parents to sign up to a pact to say, please, I agree not to give my child a smartphone until the end of year 9 at secondary school. And the more people who agree to do that, the easier it is for that to become the norm.
I think, is it Australia are thinking of developing a law saying that they don't have access to them until they're 16?
Yes, they are. And there are various ages being bandied about. I think.
How do you feel about that? Would you be up for that?
I think that I don't think there's an arbitrary age when it's safe. I think that it's really hard to say that particular age there, that's definitely safe. I think it's about perhaps being realistic. I think the end of year 9 at school, children's brains have developed to an extent where perhaps they're able to moderate more carefully than a 9-year-old about what they do and don't access. But one other key is, as a group, we believe you shouldn't have access to social media until you're 16. Yeah, because the so many. Yeah.
So, what are your kids using their phones for?
Texting me. When they go to the corner shop, saying, "Was it milk that you wanted, Mum?" Or if they go to the park for half an hour, they might give me a phone, or they might text their friends and say, "Oh, do you want us to have a sleepover on Friday?" So it's a tool, really, and they're not addicted to it because it's actually really boring. I mean, all it's there for is texting and calling. So they'll leave their phone on the side before they go to bed. They're just, as in downstairs. They're just, you can't be addicted to a brick phone.
This sounds amazing. Because I mean, even as adults, we are. Everywhere you go, you take your blooming phone with you, don't you?
Exactly. And it's about, the hope is that kids will have more face-to-face interactions, because that's what's being lost. I think one of the statistics I saw this week is that a 12-year-old spends 29 hours a week on their phone. That's a part-time job.
Yes, it is, actually, when you put it like that. That's totally true.
So if they were able to maybe replace that with getting together with their friends, and I'm not saying they don't do that already, but and again, I'm not judging anything, but I'm saying, the less phone time, the less opportunity lost.
Less stressful child, less stressful parents.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's not to love about that? Right, exactly. How do people find out more?
So if they go on to Smartphone-Free Childhood online, there's loads of information, loads of resources, and there is a contact for the SFC Shropshire. I'd encourage anybody to take a look, get online, and there's a meeting at for those parents at St George's Primary School in Shrewsbury, if they want to attend the meeting on Monday the 16th at 5:30, we're having an information sharing session then.
Wonderful. And you're going to be on Midlands Today at 6:30, aren't you, talking about this?
I am, absolutely.
Media day for you. Fascinating and so lovely to meet you. Thank you very much, Tess. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about this. That's Tess Burgess. Check out smartphonefreechildhood.co.uk for more information.